You're now watching a clip from the Inspired by show. You can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or listen on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to head over there, leave us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and follow the show.
So how did you go from writing your own book to running a book publishing company? Because there's a bit of a leap there.
Just a tad. And honestly, it was completely by accident. So I had my first book and I'd already built a team anyway. So I had a team of marketers working in my business, building my brand. And the book kind of was like a passion project. It was like please can I borrow you to just help me with this? And that person is still to this day in my book publishing business and runs all our clients, which is amazing. And so I published my own book, and I remember speaking at an event, and it was an event which was meant to have a couple of thousand people, and it was about a couple of hundred people. And most of the people in the audience were the speakers. So it was like this big uproar. But long story short, all the speakers saw me have a book on everyone's table. So all of a sudden, everyone was peed off because they'd paid to speak at an event with 100 speakers in the audience who aren't their target audience. For me, I was working with speakers. That was my audience. So I had my book out and everyone was coming to me going, how did you write your book? How did you get it to bestseller? And so then they'd say, and I had a few calls booked, and they went, I don't want to be coached by you in this. I want you to tell me how you did your bestseller. And I had about 4 in a row in 1 week. And I thought, there might be something here. And after being in business for a couple of years, I was like, just say yes and work it out anyway. Transparently, by the way. I was like, look, I've never done this before for anybody else, but I'll give it a go. Are you up for it? And what no one really knew was the very first book I ever published wasn't my own. It was actually my mum's. So my mum's retired and had a passion project of doing children's books. She'd crocheted like these children's characters. And I thought she was just like enjoying her retirement. And next minute she's like, I've done this book. I've designed the images. I really want to publish it on Amazon. And I was a marketer. I went, yeah, cool, Mum, I'll help you out. So we published her book first and I practiced the algorithm. Once I'd nailed that, I was like, okay, now I'll try with my own. So by the time these people came to me, I'd already published my mum's book and mine. So I was like, right, I've done a few, 2. I'll give it a go. And I charged like next to nothing. I think I even said like, I'll just charge you for the hours my team pay. I pay them. Let's just give it a go. And then the third book got to number 2 on Amazon. The next book got to number 1 on Amazon in 2 places, in the US and the UK. US market is so tough. So when we did that, I was like, have a little pat on the back moment. I was like, oh shit, we got this nailed. And so that's when it sort of went from there and ended up my marketing services, because I used to do people's social media back then. It went from doing the social media to actually, let's just not do that anymore. And let's specialize purely in the book publishing. And I haven't really looked back since. It's now been 4 years and we've published at this date of doing this show, 26 best-selling books.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
What an achievement. And I love the way that there was absolutely no plan there whatsoever. It was just all serendipitous, wasn't it?
Yeah. And if people had asked me when I first had my breakdown, what business would you start? Like, I'm not a writer, I'm a speaker. So I'm the sort of person that relies heavily on spell check and I'll type and miss things. And like, I'm not a confident writer. And when any people say to me, well, how do you write your book? I just kind of say, well, how would you tell your story? And that's why when I help people now, I get them to speak their story, not write their story. Because so many people get roadblocks with that and you know, writer's block and things like that. But for me, that's maybe why it works, because I'm not polished. I'm not a writer. I'm not like, oh yeah, this is amazing. You know, right. I have had blogs for years and I've written magazines. Like, that's not me. And I'm a marketer. And I always say to people, you can have the best book in the world, but if you haven't got a marketer getting it out there, it's going to be the best unread book in the library. Whereas, or worse, you're going to have 1,000 copies of your own book in your garage, which I do not agree with. Just put it out there. A lot of people say, I can get you bestseller on Amazon, but you have to order 10,000 of your own books and keep them in your garage. And that just feels unauthentic.
Is that what happens?
Yeah, people do it, honestly. And I've had people come to me when I've said to people that we have a very good track record of getting bestsellers. They'll say, oh yeah, but is it by buying your own book? Absolutely not. Because that means no one's going to read your story. So for me, it's not necessarily about the book. And I'm not saying that you don't need to have a good story. The book is important, but it's the marketing behind it. That's what's going to get the results. Like, you can have the best podcast in the world, but if people don't know it exists and listen to it, then it's not going to serve its purpose.